It's the Machine of Nonsense, episode 29, and we are talking Resident Evil Village, the 8th numbered entry into the Resident Evil series. We all played it, and we're going to talk about it. I'm your host, Eric. I'm here, as always, with Kayla.
Hey guys.
And joining us are Mike.
Hello.
And Josh.
Hi.
You're everyone's favorite, so I have to do something special, to introduce you. The polls came back. They said real down on Aaron, real up on Josh. I don't know. It's crazy. But so like I said, we're talking Resident Evil 8. Came out a couple weeks ago. We all played through it. I think some of us have played through it multiple times. So we are going to break it down. This is going to be a full-on spoiler cast. So we're going to not only spoil events in Resident Evil 8, but we're also going to have to touch on some of the other games in the series as they relate to the game, especially Resident Evil 7. So if you haven't played 7, you're worried about spoilers, or haven't played 8 and worried about spoilers, either too bad or, be warned. So let's get into it, guys. How did you enjoy the game? Just, initial impressions. Start us off, Mike.
I liked it a lot overall. Probably more than 7, and I like 7 quite a bit. This one's it's got a lot of 4 in it, and I love Resident Evil 4, so yeah, it's pretty good.
Nice. I know 4 is a pretty special one for you as well, Josh. You and Mike both kind of love 4. What'd you think of 8 in comparison to 4, in comparison to any other entries in the series?
Well, I can do this by the numbers. So my first playthrough was 8.5 hours. My second playthrough was 3.5 hours. My third playthrough was 2 hours. My fourth playthrough was 3 hours, and my fifth playthrough was 2.5 hours.
Holy smokes! I thought you were on 2. So
no, I finished this game 5 times.
Holy smokes!
Nice.
Well, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about then. What did you think, Kayla? I know we're both big Resident Evil fans.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot as well. I would probably say that I enjoyed 7 slightly more, a little bit opposite than Mike had said. But overall, I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, no surprise, but I would say I agree with you on 7 versus 8. I think I enjoyed 7 a little bit better, but we'll get into the things that I think 8 improved on 7, and they're numerous. I think 8 does a lot of things better than 7. So speaking of 7, this game is a direct sequel. It's set 3 years after the events of 7. The events of 7 are constantly being kind of rehashed and talked about, and that's kind of our initial introduction to the game. We see Ethan and Mia, Ethan, the main protagonist from 7, Mia, his wife, who he went to save. The whole plot of 7 revolves around him saving Mia. We see them living in Europe for some reason. If you want to read the little lore bits, it's because they're kind of in hiding. Chris Redfield is helping them, and this is immediately shattered by a million bullets shot into Mia. Chris and his team of whatever special forces come in hot and heavy. What did you guys think of kind of this pretty quick and violent introduction, and Mia just kind of getting it real early on? Josh, you've seen it now 5 times. What?
I hope
what
you
do
did not
think?
sit through all that 5 times, Josh. You should have been skipping that.
I am very familiar on what cutscenes you can and cannot skip by now. Let me tell you that. I will say that it did not affect me at all because it was not shocking. Like that is a thing that Chris would and should do. Mia is a terrorist. She's fucking awful. Like why is she allowed to live? Is my general statement on that.
Do you think Mia's a terrorist, Kayla?
She was working for the enemy. I mean, her whole origin story is that she was working for the connections.
Yeah.
right? So I think she sucks as a person as well. But I guess I didn't see the like gun down coming. I'd like to bring up the little story that she reads in the beginning because
Hmm.
it was interesting and cute and all, but I felt like it was like out of place. It was a strange thing for me to see in Resident Evil game.
Yeah. What'd you think of the intro?
Um, or gameplay wise, it's just like a walking. You're just like walking around the house. You got to take the baby to the crib. I hate openings like that. They're so boring. And I, the lore stuff, I had forgotten that Mia was even still a thing. I thought she died in 7. Honestly, uh, just it started the confusion quickly for me as far as the story.
Yeah, it's technically optional to even save Mia. Like obviously in 7, I mean, like it's completely optional to save her. There's like a split right near the end of 7 where you can just
Okay,
like not have her survive whatsoever. And even
I don't
at the
remember
end of
that.
yeah, they've apparently just said that no, the version where she survives is the version that we're going with from
I'm
Capcom's
fine when games
standpoint.
do that.
Really
Yeah,
quick
I mean,
aside,
you can't have both. What's up, Josh?
did anybody like do a deep dive into the concept art in this game?
A little
Not a
bit.
deep dive. Seen some.
Yeah.
Okay,
Stuff
so
in like
huh?
the bonus content stuff.
Yeah, because it when you buy a picture or whatever, it gives you behind the scenes information about it. Like it's like a little, director's commentary or whatever you want to call it. Did you guys
Oh,
the
didn't know
Mia
that.
one? The Mia one, she was. They thought she was going to be in a wheelchair in this game, which I thought was interesting.
Oh wow. That would have been a really cool like synergy with 7. Spoilers for 7. The main boss, you've seen her, Evelyn, throughout the game as an old lady in a wheelchair. That's the big kind of surprise twist or whatever in 7. As you're going through the Baker house, Evelyn's in a wheelchair as this old lady. You think it's a little girl, but it's actually an old lady, yada yada. There's a lot there. But I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea of like reusing that wheelchair idea. That's
It's the
fun.
same wheelchair.
Hey, maybe, maybe
Recycled, baby.
they gotta save on some assets, right? um, I found so like 7, the entire like crux of 7 is we gotta save Mia. Like it's that story, knight in shining armor has to save damsel in distress, and then immediately to start this game with no, we're just gonna shoot 500 bullets into her, and not really talk about it at all. Like even Ethan didn't seem too upset about the whole
He was
thing.
screaming the whole time. There was a
He
lot of like WTF, Chris.
he was very confused, I think, as opposed to like grieving, I would think.
Though it
Same
was
as me.
more like it was more like stub my toe screaming than my wife was murdered screaming. He's like, "Oh, geez, Chris, not again."
Fair, fair.
I feel like it was a geez Chris not again situation.
Yeah, Ethan's pretty rough. He's as a protagonist, he's one of the worst, I'd say.
Well,
I
you
believe the
might say
term.
maybe they dealt with that at some point in this game. But we'll
No,
get to that.
he's awful.
So the next thing we see, Chris takes Ethan and his baby Rose away, the child of Ethan and Mia Winters, and we kind of get to see what this story is going to be about. Ethan has to recover his child Rose in a similar fashion to how Resident Evil 7 was about him finding Mia. We are soon introduced to the title Village because as Ethan is being taken away in some kind of paddy wagon or something, of course it crashes. Of course, the baby is lost. Ethan doesn't know where he is. Everyone's dead. Oh God, here's the village. What did you guys think of the initial, you know, getting into the village, seeing kind of the decrepit nature, all of that. I think they were obviously really playing on RE4. We mentioned that. Um, Mike and Josh, whoever wants to start off, you guys are the RE4 guys. What'd you think of that whole opening?
They try to replicate 4's opening. They don't do a good job. This is my least favorite part of the game. Is this opening?
Oof.
It starts off just really dark, and then it's light all of a sudden, like in an instant. Just from traveling in a house real quick, and then you have to do like this survival, like just survive as long as you can moment. It was real confusing for me. I didn't really know what I was supposed to do, and yeah, not the at this point in the game, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
Josh, any counterpoints?
Counterpoints. This game is one of the most beautiful things that you can do graphically. So I was still like, oh my god, look at that. Oh my god, that drawer opens. Oh my god, look at this. So I was completely shiny key in my face, distracted. So
What were you playing on, Josh?
oh my beefy PC.
Right. Okay. I'm playing on a base Xbox One, and this game is muddy as s on the base.
I
I'm
would like
sure it
you to
looks a
come
lot
over
better.
one.
You
Yeah,
guys.
I would like you to come over one day just to see it. It is gorgeous. Like it is butter smooth.
Yeah, Kayla
Yeah,
and
I've
I
seen a
were
lot of
playing.
people gushing about how it looks, and I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, Kayla and I were playing on the Series X, the Xbox Series X, and I agree with Josh. It looked really good. I did want to talk about. Did you guys have any lighting issues? I found it very dark. Like I had to adjust the lighting.
I didn't have an issue with that. I don't think.
This is a little bit behind the curtain, but my first, second, fourth, and fifth playthroughs just fine. My third playthrough was my speed run, and that game it could not handle a speed run. Like the game actively like is fighting with you to not load all the textures and such. It's actually kind of funny.
Oh wow. Yeah, I never had any technical issues like that. I would say the only issue I had, and I think I had the longest run on this. Mine was almost 13 hours, I think, 12:45, something like that. But yeah, just dark, especially in the beginning. I was like, man, I can't see, and I was like, well, it's supposed to be scary and spooky, and you're in this like candle lit area and stuff. I guess it's supposed to be dark, and I just dealt with it for maybe like an hour or more, and then I was like, no, I need to fix this. I need to do better here.
That's a pretty good tagline for this game. Resident Evil Village, just deal with it.
I thought it was really pretty. I enjoyed all the scenes. I thought initially when you are introduced to the village, I was straight up like, is this the same village? Like, this feels
Hmm.
exactly like even like certain map situations where you were like turning in certain areas and there were gates. I was like, is this same
It-
area?
if the Resident Evil 4 village was the same village as this one, that game would not be a classic.
Well, not exactly. It just gave me those
Right.
feels, the paint.
I
The
I
village
felt the
is
same, yeah.
the village is miserable to navigate. I hate that village.
Absolutely, it is awful. I think, Josh, you were asking us like why our times were so much longer than yours initial time. I think it was just trying to find certain spots in the village. Like there was a certain area I had to look up how to get to a certain house. Like because I forgot there was like a window that I could jump through at some point.
Oh
I
wow.
really don't like the layout of the village at all.
It would be
Did you
better
have
if the map was better. The
right? I
map
was
is
about to say, did you
very
have problems with
It
the
vague.
map?
sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought so. I don't know. I felt it was okay. Like I didn't have any problems navigating. I did find myself constantly in the map. Like I was just constantly. Oh, look at the map.
Yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah.
walk a little while. Oh, look at the map again. So I didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was bad per se, but I just found myself constantly looking at the map because if you want to explore, like it's a bigger area than really any Resident Evil, definitely a more like open area, and it wants you to go in kind of completely different directions, both at the beginning of the game and throughout later on when you come back to the village. It wants you to go back and forth and retread places and whatnot. So yeah, I never got the map in my head even close.
But
Never.
still, when you would pull up the map, I'd be like, okay, taking my like figuring it out, and you'd be like, oh, in and out, in and like you. It seemed like you did understand. Like I felt like I couldn't even like comprehend how the aisles you could walk down portrayed on the map. It seemed very
They are
weird.
not. The
Right.
map straight up lies to you.
Oh yeah, it does
I'll be
not
like, oh,
tell you where
you can't
barricades
pass
are.
that
Yeah.
thing there. Okay.
A lot of issues could have been foregone by just instead of all these gates that are permanently closed, just unlock from the other side. You have to navigate it once, and then
Yeah.
from now on you can go through.
I feel like some were that though.
Absolutely.
Some.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of them weren't, though, is what you're
Others
saying?
were.
No, yeah, there wasn't a
Remember this
consistent
window you jumped through an hour ago. Like, please remember that this thing exists here. This is the only way to access this area again.
Was that the old man's house?
The one where you need like a certain key to get in, like the guitar key or whatever.
Oh.
Oh.
I had a really hard time figuring out how to get back to that house.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I remember that one. I didn't have any issues with that one in particular, but yeah, I just found myself throughout this game, whether we're talking the village or when you go into the other areas, the kind of more distinct areas, I still just constantly, like in the castle and all the other areas, I was just constantly back into my map.
Yeah, the map is useful. Like it'll blue area certain areas of the map if you've found everything in that area. But it's such a it just makes it a different game. I don't know. I liked it in RE2 remake.
Yeah.
But in this, I wish they kind of had done something different.
Yeah,
Just
RE2 is
walk.
such a confined space. I mean,
Yeah.
and you only kind of often have like two directions you can go. Like, oh, I can go down the right hallway or the left hallway, or that kind of thing. And it's like you can kind of check off the boxes a little bit in like RE2, and this one not so much. Everything's in 5 directions if you want to go in 5 directions.
Oh yeah.
In my opinion of the map, I think the map outside the village is extremely functional. It worked perfectly for what I needed to do. My one suggestion for the game was change the color gradings from blue-red to blue-yellow-red. So that way you can know if you found all the key items and there's still treasure, sure, whatever.
Mm.
But there needed to be an in-between because I don't know if I was missing a key item or a treasure that I didn't care about.
Right.
Yeah, even sometimes red would indicate like a door you hadn't yet opened and stuff. So maybe all of the items were picked up, even the treasure, like a crystal or whatever was picked up, but like you hadn't yet opened a door, so something was locked from the other side or something. So the room itself should, technically be blue, you'd almost think, but like
Yeah, and you could have just like a little red rectangle saying that there was a door locked there in the area.
Again, I played this game 5 times completely through. I have never blued the courtyard in the castle. I have no idea.
Oh, good,
Wow.
good. It's not just me. Yeah, that was
I don't
one that
know.
I did not blue. Could not figure out the court. I think it was more I never had time to hang out in the courtyard because I don't know
Oh,
if
geez.
enemies just constantly generate from
They're
there.
infinite.
Okay, I thought so. Like, because I just didn't
Or
want to.
functionally infinite.
Yeah, I did not want to fight them over and over. So I guess courtyard. We should get into. Well, before the courtyard, let's
I
stick to.
yeah,
What's up?
in the opening in the village, you get introduced to like villagers and these people, and they're quickly like all dead really fast. And I don't know. I think it would have been kind of neat to go back to the village and actually have people there, maybe besides the Duke, who we haven't talked about yet. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would that have been something like, I don't know, find me something? It could have been like, I need something from the castle, and then you bring it back to them, kind of like little side quests or something that they could have added.
Yeah, I think it would have given it maybe like a Dark Souls type feel or a From Software game, a Bloodborne-esque game, maybe. Especially, it's already got the aesthetics going on. So yeah, I'd be into something like that.
I would. It would really, really help the game. I won't touch on it too much. My problems with the story, but they could have easily used the villagers to really hammer home a theme, be it bloodline, be it family. They could have done something with the story instead of nothing.
Yeah, because they're all it's kind of like cultish in a way. This whole village, like, you could have had some kind of battle, but like maybe like someone thought this is wrong. Like we shouldn't be worshiping this Mother Miranda character, and have some kind of tension there or something. I don't know.
Did you guys pick up all the little lore pieces and stuff like that, or were you like really searching for every little scrap of paper?
Yeah, I think I found just about all of that stuff. I was, they do quick little paragraphs. It's real easy to read stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I found all 47 of them.
Nice. Yeah, I think 47 felt like if that's the number, I guess.
It is the number.
I felt it was right. It was like the right amount. I'm usually in games like RPGs or a Dark Souls type game or whatever else. I find it really hard to pick up every little piece of lore, read pages and pages of stuff. I think not only like the number, but also the amount of text was like right. I found myself like, oh, there's a couple pieces here. They're short. I can read them. They're just a couple paragraphs, and some of them link up. Like they make sense. They tell one little bit of lore or story, and I found that out of like this game kind of sets itself apart in a lot of the games where there's codexes or things you have to list, recordings or whatever. I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
I was starved for more. Just the entire game, I'm begging for table scraps, and they're just like, no.
Yeah,
No.
I think the little notes that you find are the best part of the, story. I guess, well, not the world building. I guess.
Right. So did we get introduced to the Duke in the village? I'm trying to remember exactly.
Right
he's
the castle.
Leading up to the castle, right?
Yeah. Right. So before that, we get introduced to the old lady. I don't know if we ever get her name. Do we ever get the old lady, creepy, culty lady?
She is referred to in the concept art as the Hag.
Oh, so nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I thought she was kind of neat, like at first, and yeah, then I think you see her like one more time, and never again, really.
You see her 4 times, I believe.
Oh wow!
Before the end.
Yeah, including the end.
Yeah, so three times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely thought she would be a little bit more recurring and maybe give you little breadcrumbs or something like that. But she kind of seemed innocuous in that sense.
Yeah, the Duke kind of takes the role I thought she would be as like kind of a guide or something. So
yeah,
the Duke. Our new imagining of the merchant from RE4. This is like only the second game in the Resident Evil kind of series where you have a traveling merchant, or where you can upgrade your weapons and stuff in that and buy supplies. What did you guys think of the Duke's character, as well as the things he had on offer? There's a whole kind of mini game where you can cook. That's kind of new. Where you can increase your stats, that type of thing. What'd you think of the Duke? Start us off, Kayla.
Well, I don't have too terribly much of an opinion on the Duke because I don't typically play the games, so that part kind of escapes the
what'd you think of his appearance?
satisfaction you get out of it. I that was the parts where I would be like, okay, I'm gonna look at my phone now, and he cooks, cool. He gets better HP, and that's cool. Overall health.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry, that's a bad. That's
part.
one I don't really have too much of an opinion on. I
like.
Okay.
Yeah. Incredibly obese, the Duke. He's like 500 pounds or something, some crazy number like that. And I like the Duke. He's probably my favorite part of the game, as far as like a character.
Not so much, Josh.
Are you clearing your throat, Josh? Are you getting ready to praise our number 4 seed character in a character bracket?
I would describe the Duke's character as utilitarian. Like, he is there to serve a purpose. He has no charm or personality. He is just there.
Yeah, he's just your merchant where you buy your
Like
guns
the
and
theory.
ammo and trade in stuff and cook meals, which is all
Oh,
cool
in the
things to
castle and
have.
he's sleeping and stuff.
Great.
I think you're not too far off, Josh, because there's actually a scene pretty late in the game, but it's not whatever. We can talk about it now, where I think Ethan like asks him like, "What's your deal, man?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, who are you?" He's like, "I don't know. I'm just the Duke, man. I'm just like."
Yeah, that was
So
really disappointing.
I'm fine
right,
with
yeah.
that. Like, I don't need to know more about the Duke. He's fucking.
I
He's like,
I needed I needed to know more about everything in this game.
He
oh,
did.
Capcom will just let you down if they start doing that.
You do get to a little whatever Easter egg bit of dialogue where he says the line like, "What are you buying?" from RE4.
Yeah, that was fun.
So that's the kind of, and he says like, "Oh yeah, I used to know that dude." Like, but that's the only lore of the Duke. Aside from knowing a single other merchant, he doesn't know anything about anything.
One of the few
At least
weird
about what
lines
he
that
is.
tries to link all of these games together.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
fine
he.
with.
I like the utilitarian word you use, Josh, because like not only does he do that,
I
yeah,
did not
he
like
can
that
sell
word.
you supplies, he can upgrade your weapons, upgrade your health, that kind of thing. He also like pushes the story forward in a lot of ways. Like he tells Ethan, "Here's the next place you got to go." Um, inexplicably, like he doesn't really. You don't know why he knows what he knows. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, is there anything in the like lore, the codex that you can pick up or anything
No.
that like? Okay, I was wondering if that was ever explained why he had. I know like him and Lady D like have some kind of relationship. There's one or two things where you pick up like, oh, the Duke
Yeah.
came over
Business
today.
meeting.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Just
It,
he just seems like he doesn't have a side in this fight kind
He's
of thing,
he's a
and
merchant. He's
yeah,
there to sell them stuff.
like
yeah.
Drebin from Metal Gear Solid 4 or something, or any
mm,
character like that.
I I think it's pretty heavily implied that he is supernatural in some way, just because of like where he is, how he gets there, how fast he gets there, that kind of thing. I just assume he's supernatural in some way.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, that would
He's like a fairy
explain.
tale character. All these people are plays off of that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I can see that.
Well, speaking of fairy tales, every good fairy tale has a castle. Um,
Mm,
the castle Dimitrescu. I'm going to use
nope.
the proper pronunciation. It's Romanian. It's a strong family
Mhm.
name. I heard it on another podcast, so I'm gonna. I've called it everything from Dimitrescu, Dimitrescu, Dimsdale, Dimmadome. So pick the one you want. But we get to see the castle that was in all of the trailers, the big vampire lady, her three daughters, everything they really advertised pretty heavily coming into this game. What did you guys think of that ending up being maybe only a quarter of the game, roughly? I mean, give or take. I mean,
Mm.
the game is set up in essentially four quarters, four lords that we're introduced to. Um, what did you guys think of how heavily it seemed like, oh, this is a game set in a castle, this is a game set against these vampire people, and it's not?
I was
I mean,
definitely like thrown. Like when we were in the castle and completing certain tasks, it happened a lot faster than I expected.
yeah, in marketing for the game and stuff, it seems like you're going to be, village castle, maybe bouncing back and forth or something, and it's not really that. It's just like the first main area of the game. It's my favorite part of the game. Really, just a cool classic Resident Evil mansion, basically, that you're exploring. And, it's awesome. I really liked it.
Yeah, I love the castle too. I thought it felt way more. Once again, RE4, you play a big section in a castle. Um, I felt this one was way more alive, like way more like this felt like a real place, like a real castle, whereas RE4's was like one big puzzle box,
Hmm.
with traps and just like things to get you or whatever. I felt like this. Oh, this is a real castle that just has horrible things in it because we're playing a horror game, as opposed to something that was specifically made to be like a whatever, an item, whatever you want to call it.
Like a set piece.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Josh?
I did not interact with any of the media surrounding this because I actually did not expect to play this game. I actually only heard it was like Resident Evil 4 after it came out. I'm like, okay, I'm interested. So walking into this castle, no expectations, completely blew me away graphic wise. It was just
Beautiful.
stunning. Yes. Oh my god. Like, this is the first game I've ever like stopped and looked at things just because I wanted to look at them. Purely just for the enjoyment of it. And then you go to the dungeons.
I've heard a lot of people do that with this game in the castle specifically. That's funny that you said that.
It is gorgeous. Then you go to like the dungeons. It's got a whole different. The audio design takes over. Just tour de force of just design in this castle. As far as actual gameplay, yeah.
You wanted more like puzzles, more set pieces in the castle.
No, I wanted it to be exactly like it was, but knock another 3 hours onto it.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna say that about every section.
Hey, I'm into it.
I agree with the castle section being longer. I wish it was.
Yeah, it seemed so short. I did pay attention to like media, and when the game was released, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna look for a cool picture of something to post on our social media page, and I like, for the life of me, could not find anything except for Lady D and her daughters, and I like wanted something that was a little more, just even if it could be the scene where you're introduced to the lords and Lady Miranda or Mother Miranda. Um, you couldn't find like anything on the internet that even hinted at other characters besides the ladies.
Yeah, they quickly bust down that Lady D is the main villain thing pretty early. You're introduced to 5 villains real quick.
And then you're
6.
done with her real quick and moving on.
The sixth being, of course, Mia Winters.
Oh boy.
Yeah, as far as the castle goes, I wanted more of it as well. Like you guys are all saying, I would have enjoyed more puzzles. I'm, a fan of the Resident Evil puzzles and trick doors and
Yeah.
standing on this lever and getting a crank and stuff like that. So I wish there were more of that.
I enjoyed the fire parts and
Mhm.
those kind of puzzles. It just felt really the locomotion of the game and just busting through doors and just running through this castle felt real nice for me.
Yeah, I didn't want more puzzles because as we'll go through this discussion, we'll figure out that each section has its gimmick, its thing, its theme, or whatever. I wanted the theme to be the terror of Lady D and the daughters chasing you. I wanted it to be very Resident Evil 2, Mr. X following you everywhere. That's what I wanted out of that section. It was laughable to get away from Lady D.
Oh, I was really happy that it was not intrusive. Like, yeah, Lady D's in here. Okay, see you later. Like, fine.
Yeah.
I can jog away from you. I was fine with that. Mr. X in
No.
RE2 remake was overbearing at times. It was just like a pain in the ass. Lady D was not.
Right. That's what I wanted. I wanted there to be some kind of tension in this area. Like she's stalking you through this castle. You can never know where she is. She can bust through walls, and she's just kind of just over there doing her thing.
They do all the tension early in the opening attack. That's where it all is. After that, you're just a killing machine.
Yeah, I think I was really concerned that I had heard kind of early on, just before release, I think, that, Lady D was going to be a nemesis, a Mr. X type, chase you around kind of situation. And those were my least favorite parts of like Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake. And I was really concerned because I was like, man, I'm pumped for this game, but I'm not pumped if that's what the game's going to be. Just like 8-10 hours of me having to do that. But I really liked what it was, like randomly running into the daughters, and then having to figure out like how you defeat them, because they're allergic to cold, and you have to figure out how you can make them cold. And then Lady
I didn't know they
D.
were allergic to cold. I thought it was sunlight.
At first I
Oh,
did too. The first one, I
Oh,
was
that
like, "Oh
night
yeah, the
sun.
window's open."
yeah, there's like a cool another little lore piece that was real cool, touched on the daughters fairly early on, and it said like, oh, we experimented on them. There's these flies, they make up their whole bodies, and the flies just so happen to be like highly allergic to cold temperatures. Like they will cease to exist or whatever if
Yeah.
there's cold temperatures. So that's
I
that's
thought that
their
was
whole thing.
I thought that was really neat characterization. 'Cause I thought they were women who could turn into bugs, but they're actually bugs who can turn into women. All for that. That was great.
Yeah, I feel like they explain a lot of the lore pretty well. I mean, kind of grounded. The Resident Evil series is not a grounded series. It's not a realistic series,
Right,
but
but fun.
I feel like they're at least trying and succeeding in parts. Like, oh, there's these bugs that like to mimic animals, especially humans, and if you get enough of them together, they will straight up turn into a human. And they really like eating meat. That's another thing, like another aspect of them. They're carnivorous and they eat meat. So that's what like these aren't vampires. Like everyone saw these girls and like, oh, they're vampires, or they're constantly talking about eating flesh and everything
Man
else.
eaters.
But really, they're just a big old mound of flies who like to eat meat. Like
Man flesh. There's their preferred.
they
Specifically.
prefer man flesh. Yes, yeah. So yeah, those
Yeah,
But
characters were cool.
just it's a little bit off topic, but really the way I envisioned this game, the way I wanted it to be, was that each section was a piece of Resident Evil history. So the
Mm.
castle could have been Resident Evil 2, the factory at the end could have been Resident Evil 4. Like that's what I wanted it to be. It was not that to the degree I wanted. But that's just that.
It's kind of in there. It's a little light flavor to think about it that way, though.
I think there are
Yeah.
some elements. I mean, if you do like really break it down, you do have a large hulking beast that's coming after you in Lady D. So that's
How dare you?
RE2, RE3. The castle, you could say, well, really, I mean, the whole game has shades of RE4 all over it. And then,
Right. They I just didn't think they committed to the idea enough. They did separate the game into four distinct gameplays, but they didn't hammer it. They didn't go for it as much as I wanted them to.
yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think it would have improved it.
Some of the detail in the castle was really nice. Like speaking about the daughters who eat flesh. Once you like learn that and you go into the dungeons, there's like meat hanging all around. Which originally I was just like, oh yeah, there's meat. This is a castle. They have stock. They have storage. But then it all made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you mentioned, Josh, you just kind of spent some time in the castle, like looking around and everything else. It was super beautiful. I found myself really compelled to like get out as soon like between the daughters, between Lady D, like I was propelled through it fairly quickly. I didn't want to linger because I did feel like, man, something's right behind me or I'm going to run into something and not want to deal with it essentially. I mean, even though this game overall we haven't touched on it, it's much more of an action game than like 7 was. Even though
yeah.
the mechanics are the same, the amount of supplies you get, the enemies drop supplies, which they did not do in 7 or even in several of the previous entries. It's much more like 4 in that sense, much more of an action game where you're pretty well supplied. You can even buy supplies from the Duke. I still found myself fairly scared. I found this game to be fairly tense regardless.
Oh, really? I was gonna ask if anyone thought this game was scary at all.
Mm,
The moment I got a gun, I was okay.
mm.
Yeah, this game wants you to always just be not worried about your ammo ever and just unloading on dudes. And it's
Yeah.
just an action game.
Yeah, you did always have a good supply of items.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just
Yeah.
more like there's also in the castle there's several scenes of like everyone's seen it if they've gone on the internet where you just lose your hand like by touching a thing
Yeah.
a lever panel like
Mm.
so for the rest of the game every time I was going to touch a lever I'm like okay well there's a chance that I'm going to just get my arm sliced off or very early on in the village you get a couple of your fingers bit off and stuff like they're constantly body horror type stuff. So as much as I felt equipped to shoot dudes in the face, I still felt like at any moment something like that was going to happen. So I was fairly scared.
A quick aside on that specific scene. That is the hardest part of the game on Ultra Hard. That part sucks. It is miserable.
Being in
Just
the
know that.
dungeon with Lady D and trying to juke her.
Yeah, because on Ultra Hard, their idea of difficulty is more enemies. So
More
you're in that
enemies.
dungeon with Lady D, 3 other things, and one hit kills you, and it's just miserable. You can't heal.
Oof.
It's
Yeah.
just ugh.
That doesn't sound fun. That doesn't sound fun at
thanks.
all. So I guess we could get to like the end of the castle scene, the boss battle. What did you guys think of Lady D transforming from a beautiful 10-foot lady to all women are beautiful, so a beautiful like 30-foot monstrosity.
The
Specifically,
game move. Go ahead, Josh.
specifically a dragon, which I think is a real neat callback to Dracula. You know, the son of the dragon. So I thought that was like, yeah, okay, I'm into it.
Just another dumb Resident Evil boss design. Like, I don't know why Lady D had to transform at all. She's just a really cool design already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's their thing. They like to turn into big
Yeah,
weird
yeah,
monstrosities.
it's bad.
Yeah,
So-
I thought it was just kind of quick. And again, I didn't necessarily play the game, but I watched Eric play, and as a bystander, it just seemed like Eric kind of did it fairly quickly and without too much trouble.
Yeah, she's just a bullet sponge.
Mm.
Got to dodge a
Yeah.
few times.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's even worse than that if you get into like the actual mechanics of the game, because there are certain damage thresholds that once you damage her to that point, she cannot be damaged any further until the next set piece happens. So it's
I
real.
hate stuff like that. Ugh.
Yeah, that fight's the worst of the game and that kind of thing.
Yeah, even in the fight, I'm like, man, am I hurting
Mhm.
her?
Mhm.
I think so. I'm just unloading all my stuff. Then
Yeah,
even
you
after
probably
losing all my ammo, I quickly regained it all right after this fight. So
you probably patched the damage threshold really quick.
It's one of the
Oh,
most
yeah,
frustrating
yeah.
things in games of like not knowing if you're doing damage or not, and especially if ammo is scarce. It wasn't necessarily scarce in this game, at least not on standard difficulty. But yeah, that can be really frustrating. Just like especially if you're using your best stuff, your sniper rifle ammo or something like that. Like that's
Oh
tough.
yeah, I
Yeah.
used all my rifle ammo in this fight.
I liked the
but
verticality of it. Like Josh
yeah,
mentioned, it was a dragon. I thought that was different. I mean, that's, if I remember correctly, is kind of the only major enemy that, there's some gargoyle type enemies that go in the air, but they're
Ugh,
just like
yeah,
little
the most
little
annoying
mini
thing.
guys.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
imps, whatever.
yeah.
but
I-
just wanted to touch on Lady D as a character herself. I really, really wanted her to be better. They just didn't give you enough of her. Still the second best character in the game, but I desperately wanted more.
Mhm. Yeah, it makes you think that there would be. That's what like one of my biggest problems with this game is like they set up so much stuff, but just kind of close that book real
Like,
quick.
like all of the family imagery, like Mother Miranda, Lady D and her daughters, you trying to get your daughter, Moreau looking for a mother, like everything was set up to be like huge family themes. They just like, eh.
Yeah, I like the scene where she finds out you've killed like one of her daughters and she like freaks out.
Yeah,
I like that kind of
she's
stuff.
very well written. I wish there was more of her.
Yeah,
I'm
same. They don't let her stretch out them legs, them gams.
Yeah, I think coming from your perspective, Josh, of not even really being spoiled on imagery initially, because I mean they overplayed their hand on Lady D early on in all the marketing materials. So you not even coming from that background, it's interesting to hear you say that. Yeah, she still wasn't enough of a character with no
I
expectations.
I think they again another part of this. They had a really good opportunity to get like a really emotional story, like Lady D losing her daughters, and like they could have, but she's like, that's fine. Like she had that one scene where she threw a rage, and after that, she's like, I'll get you, and that was it. I'm like, okay,
And a big part of that is that's only a quarter of the game, like I mentioned. So you've got your castle area, and then soon you're done with the castle. You've killed Lady D. You are now back into the village, and the Duke lets you know that, hey, you're not done. We got 3 more lords to get to. And the whole crux of it is you have to complete a key. So you not only have to complete a key to get into different areas, but you have to complete another type of a key, because you find out that they've quadrisected, I guess, your daughter, right?
It Resident
Into
Evil your kid.
yeah, they've Resident Evil'd
Finds
your
out.
Cut her
child.
up and put her in
Yeah.
some slimy container.
Yes, they've made a key out of your daughter. So you have 4 pieces. Each of the 4 lords have a piece. They represent like her head, her
Torso.
yeah,
Yeah.
something. And her heart, maybe? I don't know. Whatever.
Arms and
There's 4
legs.
pieces. Arms and legs. That makes sense.
I was kind of shocked when you first get that first flask. Like, oh man, they're just killing kids here.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. I mean, it's pretty dark, and like Ethan, I feel like that's maybe the most emotion that Ethan shows in the game too. Like when he realizes he's holding a flask with his daughter's head in it.
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
Sure, that's what he said when he.
There's one more scene where he shows more emotion, but we'll touch on that later.
Yeah, we will. So our next section, our next lord, is Donna Beneviento and House Beneviento. This is a purveyor of mannequins. We see early in the game a creepy little mannequin doll, and we get to see a lot more in the house. What did you guys think of so you go through a long kind of forest to get to this house. It's very hazy. It's very dark. You kind of know things are getting wrong, and then you finally get into the house. What did you guys think of that whole area leading into the house, and then finally getting into the house of Beneviento? Mike started us off.
It's that opening area was fine. I like the actual meat of the area, the puzzle house, the dollhouse.
How'd you think of the vibe, Kayla?
I really liked the section. It was pretty creepy to me. Even when you get in, once you're finally inside and you have that whole puzzle section where like you see Mia like a doll that's put together in parts, like life size replication of her, where you have to like take apart her body and find certain things to open doors. That's the kind of stuff I look for in my Resident Evil, so I enjoyed that. It was creepy.
How
And
about
then
the
that slug
third
thing.
playthrough, Josh? What did you think of the third playthrough of this section?
The third playthrough, House of Benevenito, whatever you say, is about 8 minutes long, the entirety from beginning to end. So
Sure.
that's great. But no, this will come as a surprise to you guys. But leading up to it, graphical masterpiece. Looks just absolutely gorgeous. I actually, when I got to the reveal of the house, I actually stopped playing because I knew somebody was coming over in about 30 minutes, and I really wanted them to see it. So I just stopped playing because it was just so gorgeous. I wanted them to see it. Um, love
Man,
the area.
that bothers me. I wish I could have played a better
It's
looking version of this game.
gorgeous.
I think there's also some like lore implications, because you find out as you're going through this, if you pick up the little scraps and things of that nature. There's these flowers, these hallucinogenic flowers planted all over the area surrounding the house and whatnot. So I think that lends itself to the environment. I think they
Yeah.
melded like the story and what everything looks like. And then obviously you have a freak out essentially. The area is an area without combat. You're stripped of your weapons. You have to solve a puzzle, like Kayla said, based on a mannequin. You have to pull apart a mannequin, find various keys, go into various areas. It's one big puzzle house. Josh
Very
said
PT.
very
Oh, yes.
PT, very PT. If you're familiar with that, I found it to be the scariest part in the game, because it's the only part in the game where, well, there's no combat, and I think it's trying to ramp up the scares from like a sound design standpoint. It's visually very, like, it's a mix of dark and some like lights off to the corners, those type of things. I think the lighting was really good. Did you guys find this to be scary? I know you said overall you didn't find the game to be scary, but like, how about you, Josh? Playing it multiple times, I'm sure it wasn't the scary multiple
Um,
times, but at least the
I
first.
appreciate what they were going for. I also doubly appreciate just again this amazing set design where you go from this huge opulent castle that looks just the richest thing ever, and then you just go to this house that looks like a normal fucking house. It's just such a great juxtaposition of like different shift in tone. Um, loved the house. From a theme perspective, the gameplay is just miserable though. Ugh.
Well, I know visually, it wasn't maybe great for you, Nelson, but how about just like thematically and that type of thing? What did you think of that section?
I really enjoyed it. I like that going forward, these games are just going to have like a puzzle section. That's all it is. No combat really or anything. I think I liked this area in 7 more. I think the puzzles were a lot better.
Yeah, I
Clever.
would agree with that.
But this was cool. I got hung up on because there's like multiple sections on the mannequin or whatever to look at, and I think the eye and the mouth are so close together. I never even knew that you could examine the mouth. So once I got like a certain item, it was a lot of just back and forth trying to figure out where to use that item. But overall, I liked it. This is where a lot of probably the most tension is because you're like, okay, when's something gonna pop out at me in this place? And then when it does, it's just laughable.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Did you find I don't know that it's a giant fetus, I guess?
Yeah,
Like
it's
thing.
big, dumb, slow thing. Like,
I thought it was
this is
terrifying.
scary. They've seen PT.
Yeah,
They just used the model from PT and just enlarged it.
yeah.
It's so stupid.
Didn't want to
When
look at it, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I looked at
when
it
it
once for a second and then beat it. Like, okay, I just know what I have to do. I just have to run. Okay, like,
when it popped around the corner, it was Spooky Baby in my mind. After that, it was Silly Clown Baby.
Hmm. I like the sound. I liked it crying and stuff. I thought that was super creepy. And yeah, it wasn't difficult. It wasn't a difficult section. Like, yeah, I just like ran back to the table, got the table between it and me, and got around it essentially. So it
yeah.
wasn't a difficult section, but I don't know that it was meant to
The
be
pace of this
difficult.
game doesn't let it be scary.
Mm.
Yeah,
Like you're always moving. You're just always going. Like you have no time. The game doesn't want you to be scared ever. I felt like
that I feel like that again is my biggest problem with the game is how short it is, and I feel like if they had given this section time to breathe, time to let it set in, up Donna's like hallucinogenic problems, like make it more about memories, like they could have done a lot with this area, and it was just Spooky Baby. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because to get in the house, you have to like put the picture and through the mail slot. And, yeah.
Slam dunk. Like they had the perfect setup. It could have been such a good like losing your memories is fucking scary. Like they could have done a lot with that.
Yeah, and then you get to like the end part of that where you're chasing or trying to find the creepy
Oh,
doll.
Angie.
That
What
was
did
That
the
you
part
think?
first
was
time.
miserable.
That was the
Ugh.
first time I realized the actual like person, like they actually show it to you, but I didn't even like catch it ever before that.
Oh, Donna?
Mhm.
Oh, like the ghost that's controlling the puppet, or
Right,
yeah.
the woman. Mhm.
Well, she's not a ghost.
Well, the invisible lady. I don't know I don't know how to explain that part really.
She's able to
So
create hallucinations.
Yeah,
That's the
she's
thing.
cloaked
yeah.
and gives
Uh,
her
See, I
her
didn't know anything
aura,
about
whatever.
I didn't pick up on the flower thing, or this is
Oh.
Resident Evil. It's just they're just putting visions in in front of me. Like,
Oh man.
Yeah, like now going back and like over
I like
rewatching
that
certain
concept.
scenes, I'm like, oh yeah, there she is, right there. Like I just didn't see her the first time.
Yeah.
There's so much beauty to look at.
This will come as a surprise to everybody. My favorite character easily, Donna.
Okay. I think her
She's great.
backstory is really good, and I think they
Mhm.
flesh her out as well as anyone in the little like pieces of lore that you pick up.
Yeah, she could have been better, but I think
There
what
could
they
have
did
been
with her
more.
was great. Big fan of that archetype. A deep dive into the concept art. She was originally supposed to be a doctor, and that was supposed to be a live, like a dead body that you were dissecting instead of a mannequin to get the keys and
Mm.
such.
Man.
That would have been more effective, I think. But like, Evil Within did something like that, I think, and
The doll stuff is creepy. I don't know. Dolls creep me out.
Yeah,
That's been
I don't
done a
think it's
million
any.
times, yeah.
yeah. But then there's 30,000 dolls around here. Like, it's not when there's that many. It's like it's not creepy. Like, it's just like, okay, I'm just
They
surrounded. Like,
move.
okay. Do
Well,
they
They
like
all
it
I
plays
have a
into.
part of the Cadou in them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Gadu.
yeah.
it's creepy. Ugh.
It also like plays into her character of like wanting people to be around her, but not being able to like actually physically interact with people, and like her social anxiety. I really liked her character, and what they did with her just wasn't in the game enough.
Light little dusting.
How did that
Yeah.
fight? Was it just over time? If you couldn't find the right doll over time, you'd get hit.
Yeah.
That's how
They
it
would
Yeah, because I
seems to
could
be.
I couldn't
attack
find
you.
the first area. I did like 4 laps around this house and just kept getting attacked randomly sometimes. It was another just confusing part of the game that could have been telegraphed a little better, I guess. I don't know.
I took
I don't
2
think that one was that
tries
bad.
to do that one. I definitely died once on that. It wasn't random, right? She was always in the same
The
areas
first
each.
the first two spots, she's always in the same spot. The third part, she can be in one of two places.
Gotcha.
That explains why I had a hard time.
Yeah, that explains. Yeah, no, I was creeped out. I don't know. I thought that whole area was probably my favorite area in that whole the whole game, honestly. I think it was
Oh
like
well,
yeah, I like you said the game is definitely not as scary as like 7 or even like RE2 remake or something
not
else.
even close to
Um
those.
and I think that's the only section where it's like, oh, I'm getting like RE7 vibes or vibes of an actual scary game of some kind.
PT is what the word you're looking for.
PT, sure, yeah. I mean, I was terrified playing PT, so definitely
Yeah,
with
you
it on
were.
that.
We were all there.
I
Wish we
played
could
it
do a
with
whole
all
podcast on
3 of
that.
you in the room, and yeah, I was still terrified.
Just go through the door, Eric. Just go.
Nah, no thanks. So we get to go back to the village. We've now defeated Donna, R.I.P. Donna, and our next lord is Moreau, a, a hunchback, a fishman hunchback guy. What did you guys think of his character design? He's like super pathetic. Like all of his lines are him. I think Josh, you mentioned it earlier. Like he wants a mom, and he wants like Mother Miranda to care about him, and he wants the lords to like respect him and everything else. That's
He's
his whole
Quasimodo.
shtick. He is. He's very much Quasimodo. What did you guys think of that? Josh, you've seen him 5 times now.
A lot of people are going to pick the Heisenberg line as their best line of the game, but no, the "I'm the best" when he comes at you is. I laughed so fucking hard. I actually died there because I was laughing so hard. Um, this is the part that made me hate Ethan Winters because Ethan is so like aggressively mean and hateful towards this dude who didn't really do much as far as the story goes. Like he's just there living his life, and Ethan hates him for some reason. Like he's so
He's
aggressive. Not
gross, man.
He's got
sure,
a
but like
piece of his daughter's body.
Lady D cut off his arm and tried to kill him and hung him up, and she got like a
He's
pass.
pretty.
Like you're cursed. But this dude's like, you die as you live, disgusting. Like, why Ethan? Why are you so mad at him? Bit of concept art. Again, they went into what Moreau was supposed to be. The flooded village was supposed to be a fishing village, a la Bloodborne DLC, where you're supposed to actually
It
explore a
reminded me
village.
of that. As soon as I got into that area, I thought of the that area in the Bloodborne part. That's funny that you said
That was what it was supposed to be, and Moreau was supposed to be in the background kidnapping people the entire time. That kind of was his setup to be the villain or whatever. But as verbatim, they put in the concept art, this was too difficult. We decided to go with a generic flooded village instead. They used the word generic when describing their game.
that. They knew what they had. It's very,
Come on, guys.
very generic. This is the worst part of the game.
Yeah, easily the worst part. It's pointless.
Yeah, in the script I wrote water level in quotes. Traditionally everyone's least favorite part of really any video game. It's just shorthand for shitty part in video game. And I think What did you think of the flooded area, Kayla?
It was not original, like you guys are already discussing. I don't know. He was kind of creepy and pathetic to look at and hear. Um, it was interesting, like how the levels themselves change. Like once he's more in the picture, there's like goo in the main village area and like
Right.
blocking your ways in his domain. It's like in the way, and sometimes you can blast it down and sometimes you can't, which is a little strange, but
Yep.
didn't really do anything for you.
Yeah, I wish that mine kind of section was longer. I don't know. I think they could have done something cool with like the slime stuff. That was his whole gimmick, but he's got two gimmicks.
Yeah.
He's got.
Yeah.
He's a big old monster.
How long did this section take you, Josh?
That one takes about 12 minutes. It's
How long it
real
felt
quick.
like for me too. It's 12
Yeah, I felt like it went real quick, that section. And this being kind of like the 3/4 way, at least in terms of like, this is the third
Nah.
Lord, right. I'm like, oh man, this game's gonna end very soon. If I'm powering through this water level. Because it felt like, okay, the castle was fairly long, like it's got some beef to it. The house, not so much, kind of a quick, level, no combat, whatever, no real puzzles, real quick. And then, man, the water level, pretty snappy too. You mentioned the mine. I found myself a little confused there. I went and there was I think 3 different divergent paths there, and there's a section that seems to be completely optional that just kind of goes off into a dead end.
That's a little later in the level.
Right. It's just in the mine area, right?
Like
it's just
like the area that leads off to where the boat is. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's a little boat, there's a little house, but it's just a big open area with enemies, but I don't think you get do you get anything there? I don't remember. I remember going there and being like, okay, cool, I killed a couple enemies, I re-upped on some ammo or whatever, but I don't remember it having a story impact whatsoever.
If we're talking about the same spot, you can go back once everything's destroyed. You can kind of go back through there, and there's some fish in a pond, and there's a treasure chest and stuff.
But... Yeah, really
That's
quickly.
A different area, yeah. But what's
okay?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the area you're talking about, Eric, is where you get the boat key. So that place is required to go to.
Oh, okay.
There is a part later on that is just a divergent path that has a big pond where you can get some fish, and that's it. And it's really weird.
Gotcha. Yeah, I checked out both of those areas.
Fish.
Is that by
I had a hard time finding
the castle bridge? Or is that different?
Oh, that's a different optional area.
That's a different area. I want to talk about Moreau really quick as a character.
Sure.
Again, this is me being script doctor or whatever, but they really should have played up him being pathetic and him wanting approval or whatever. Because he starts off kind of pathetic, but then he just turns cartoonishly evil for some reason. I don't understand what they did with this character. But again, that could have been another way to explore, this is an abandoned child or an unwanted child. They could have hit the family theme again there. Also, I had another point, but I forgot. So moving on.
I think it's part of his transformation. Just he's when we get to see him, he's real damn close to transforming. He's ready to fully become a beast. He's kind of, the Four Lords are all technically like successful experiments, but he's the least successful out of them. Like he's the most changed out of all of them, and he's like near the very end of his full-on change to whatever fish monster you want to call him. So I think that's the aspect. Like they don't get to, other than the lore readings that you can do and his couple lines of dialogue where he's like sad boy. I think he doesn't
Yeah.
have an opportunity to have more than that, because it's like, well, he's got to transform into the boss at that point.
I don't know if it's in the concept art or in the lore itself, but they do say that he cannot control it, and he goes back and forth without being able to control it.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like I felt like that was done well. It definitely seemed like, oh man, he's got no control, and I was concerned. I
He
was like,
activated by water. I thought if he goes in water, he turns into this fucking thing. I thought that was the only reason why they should have this like flooded place. Like this is his domain or something. I don't know.
But he made the conscious decision to be around water. He's like, I don't want to transform into this fish monster, but I don't know where else to live. I don't like.
Yeah, I wanted him to be more of a sympathetic villain. Like they could have easily given him like maybe the Thanos treatment. He could have been Resident Evil's Thanos, if you know what I mean.
Oh God.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
As far as why he chose to live there, each of the four lords were given provincial of those areas before those people were even the lords. So that's the game's explanation why he's there.
So he became a fish monster because that's the area he's living in.
Well, he lived there. His ancestors lived there, and then he became a fish monster. You know,
makes sense to me. Perfect sense.
But you got the boss fight wasn't great with him. He has a cool attack. I liked his like acid attack that you have to like hide under some shelter from and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it might be the best boss fight in the game.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
I think it might be my favorite.
It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I like
some hidden barrels.
Yeah, I felt super. They gave you a lot of supplies during that fight. I think that was the one thing that was a little. It did make it like super easy because a fairly large like box area you can kind of go around in a square more or less with some other pathways, and then it's just like every corner you get to, it's like, oh my god, there's like an excessive amount of ammo here and health items and everything else. But yeah, the acid attack was cool because I didn't understand it initially, and I felt like the animation was real cool. Like you're just burning, and it'll hurt you over time too.
Yeah. I also don't know if I liked the boss so much because it was such a good design, or it was a breath of fresh air after that miserable level.
So you didn't like the fish area? I mean, kind of. I wanted to point on the once again another RE4 similarity. Big lake with big fish that you have to deal with.
Exactly.
But in this one, it's more of a puzzle, more of a stop and go, red light, green light kind of thing.
I don't like really games that's like I forget what the word for it, but arbitrarily slow your movement. I hate that in a video game. In this game, that part of the game is just, oh, now Ethan can only walk now. Too bad. Good luck. Like, okay, great.
I mean, would you have ran on those rickety platforms over a fish monster?
If there's a 40-foot fish monster barreling down at me yelling, I'm the best, I would run.
But what if he was the Thanos of Resident Evil 8?
Moving on.
Hey there, it's Eric, the host of the Machine of Nonsense, and you're listening to the Resident Evil Village Spoilercast. It was so big that we had to cut it into 2 different parts, so you're either finishing up Part 1 or you're starting Part 2. As always, I want to thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy our Spoilercast. See ya!